Imagine a world where music lives only within stone walls. Just human voices echoing through candlelit cathedrals. No guitars, no radio, and nope, no Beyoncé. This is Europe around the year 800, a time when sound wasn't a form of entertainment, but a form of devotion. Out of this came something extraordinary, the invention of musical notation, harmony, and rhythm, the very foundation of what we now call Western music. In early medieval Europe, most written music was sacred. Monasteries served as the studios, libraries, and distribution networks all in one. The style we associate with this time is plain chant, often called Gregorian chant. It's monophonic, meaning one melodic line sung in unison. Each chant followed one of the church modes, the ancestors of our modern scales: Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. The point wasn't performance or personality, it was devotion. Chant shaped time and prayer the way a metronome shapes time and practice, quietly, steadily, and with purpose. At first, melodies were remembered, not recorded. For centuries, chant was transmitted entirely by memory, passing melodies down orally through generations. But as the repertoire grew, memory wasn't enough. Around the 9th century, scribes began experimenting with small marks called neumes, drawn above the text to show whether the melody rose or fell. At first, they were only approximations, not exact notes, but gradually, horizontal lines were added to indicate precise pitches. Then came Guido of Arezzo, a monk and theorist from Italy. He developed a system using 4 lines, the ancestor of today's 5-line staff, and introduced psalmization, the do-re-mi system still used for teaching today. But why does this matter? Because once you can write music, you can share it widely and develop it deliberately. Guido's innovation changed everything. Music could now be preserved, studied, and shared across monasteries and borders. It was no longer tied to one place or one person. Notation turned music into a universal language, a technology for capturing sound on paper. Once melodies could be written down, composers began to experiment. What if 2 voices could move at once? What if sacred sound could have depth? The earliest experiments were simple, adding another line that mirrored the chant at a fixed interval. This new texture was called organum, and by the 12th century in Paris, music at Notre Dame Cathedral became far more sophisticated. Composers like Léonin and Peritin layered multiple independent voices, each with its own rhythm and contour that weave together melodically. This is the birth of polyphony, multiple voices of equal importance. To make this possible, notation had to evolve again, to show not only pitch but also rhythm. This new rhythmic notation that gave composers a sense of meter and a steady pulse is what evolved to become modern time signatures. Not all music belonged to the church. Outside the cathedrals, in castles and courts, a new voice was rising, the troubadours and trouvères of France. These poet-musicians wrote about love, adventure, and longing. They sang of knights and courtly romance, often being witty or satire. Their songs were the pop music of their day, personal, emotional, and performed for audiences. Unlike the anonymous monks, troubadours signed their work. They were celebrities in their own right, traveling from court to court, spreading new styles and instruments like the lute, viol, and harp. In a way, they were the first singer-songwriters, writing and performing their own material. Through them, music stepped out of the sacred world and into the human world, reflecting emotion, humor, and individual identity. This shift from devotion to expression is one of the most defining transformations of the Middle Ages. By By the end of the medieval period, the elements of Western music were in place: notation, polyphony, and rhythm. The Renaissance will smooth the lines, the Baroque will dramatize the harmony, and the Classical and Romantic eras will push form and expression. Every era that followed built upon what the monks and medieval era began. The medieval world gave us the idea of a composer, someone who shapes sound intentionally for others to perform. It gave us a way to preserve musical thought across time, turning moments into manuscripts and manuscripts into history. Every staff line, every symphony, every pop chord progression traces back to these centuries of experimentation and devotion. When you open a modern score, you're not just reading notes, you're reading 1,000 years of invention. The story of medieval music is one of persistence and transformation, of faith turned into form, and sound turned into symbol. From Hildegard von Bingen's visionary chants to Periton's layered harmonies, to the troubadours' songs of love and laughter. This era didn't just echo through cathedrals. It set the stage for everything that came after. Sources for this video include Oxford Music Online, Richard H. Hoppin's Medieval Music, and Sarah Fuller's research in the Cambridge History of Music Theory. Musical examples and scores are drawn from IMSLP and Gallica Digital Archives, as well as course materials and the MRC